05 17 hours, North Arabian Sea, 140 nautical miles east of the Strait of Hormuz. Dawn light settles across the flight deck, and the carrier screen holds steady in flat water. Then 60 hostile tracks bloom across radar scopes at once. In this tactical simulation, the first warning comes from the outer air picture. An E-2D Hawkeye orbiting high above the strike group detects a mass launch from the Iranian littoral. The tracks are small, fast enough to matter, low enough to complicate radar horizons. 60 unmanned aerial vehicles split into 4 converging axes, all driving toward USS Abraham Lincoln. The tactical action officer does not raise his voice. He does not need to. The numbers speak clearly. A saturation attempt is now unfolding against one of the most heavily defended naval formations on Earth. Combat systems go fully live. Ready aircraft are turned into interceptors. Every range ring in the battle space suddenly means life or death. At 5:51:19 hours, the first classification update reaches Combat Direction Center. The outer tracks resolve into a mixed package: 48 one-way attack drones in the Shahed class, 12 smaller decoy or sensor drones flying slightly higher and faster. Their spacing is disciplined. Their timing is not accidental. This is a deliberate effort to stretch detection windows, force multiple engagement decisions, and drain magazines before the main body arrives. The carrier is not alone. Abraham Lincoln is screened by Aegis destroyers, USS Frank E. Peterson Jr., USS Spruance, and USS O'Kane. Together they build a layered engagement envelope: air intercept, missile defense, electronic attack, close-in guns. At 05:21 hours, the first airborne response begins. 2 F-35C Lightning IIs already on combat air patrol are redirected north-northwest. A 4-ship of F/A-18E/F Super Hornets is brought to launch status on the roof. An EA-18 Growler section powers up for standoff jamming. The E-2D pushes track quality data through the network. Targets are sorted by threat axis, speed, and projected time to reach the carrier's defended asset list. There is no wasted motion. Deck crews run in colored jerseys to jet blast and rotor wash. Catapult cycle. The air wing becomes the outer shield. At 05:23 hours, the first Super Hornet leaves the bow, then another, and another. 4 aircraft in under 2 minutes. Each launches with a mixed counter-air loadout: AIM-120D for beyond visual range work, AIM-9X for the merge, 20 mm for anything that survives. The Growlers follow. Their mission is not destruction. It is dislocation, breaking navigation links, disturbing timing, forcing the swarm to lose cohesion before the missile phase even begins. At 05:25 hours, Lincoln's escorts shift from tracking to engagement authority. The raid is now inside 90 nautical miles. That is still outer layer distance, but time is collapsing. The F-35Cs descend to bracket the leading wave. The Hawkeye refines the picture. Some drones are sea-skimming at under 300 feet. Others pop higher, acting as bait for radar and missile allocation. The carrier strike group does not take the bait. The high flyers are tagged. The leakers remain the priority. At VPAF 5:27 hours, the first air-to-air shots are taken. Missiles away. Impact in 22 seconds. One AIM-120D reaches out and vaporizes a lead drone at 31 nautical miles. A second missile kills another 3 seconds later. The F-35Cs do not linger. They crank, reset, and fire again. The first wave begins to fragment. Burning debris drops into black water. 6 drones destroyed in the first pass. 4 more turn erratic after Growler jamming severs their timing. The formation is already degrading. At 05:29 hours, the Super Hornets arrive at the edge of the intercept basket. Now the engagement becomes methodical. One section takes the western axis. Another covers the central group. The pilots are not hunting fighters. They are breaking a machine formation before it can condense over the carrier. AIM-9Xs come off the rails at close range. One drone disintegrates in a white flash. Another loses a wing and cartwheels into the sea. A third survives the missile shot and is finished by cannon fire short burst, direct hit, immediate breakup. The radio traffic remains clipped. No speeches. No emotion. Just bearings. Counts. Kill confirmations. At 05:31 hours, the destroyers enter the fight. The surviving drones are now inside 45 nautical miles, and the geometry is tightening. Frank E. Peterson Jr. launches the first shipboard interceptors. Vertical cells open. 2 standard missiles leap into the sky, curve hard, and disappear into low cloud. Seconds later, 2 bright blossoms rip open the horizon. Spruance follows with another pair. O'Kane joins. The mid-layer is now active. Aegis takes over what aviation cannot finish in time. At 05:33 hours, electronic warfare begins to bite. Several drones lose spacing and drift out of laying discipline. 2 descend prematurely and strike the sea. 1 circles. Another turns east, no longer pointed at Lincoln at all. That matters. Every drone pulled off profile is one less round that must be met with a missile costing orders of magnitude more. This is what the tactical picture now shows. Aviation is thinning the raid. Aegis is trimming the center mass, and the swarm is no longer arriving as 60. It is arriving as fragments. At 05:35 hours, helicopters launch from the screen. An MH-60R Seahawk pushes low over the water to sanitize the near-surface picture, watching for a simultaneous fast attack craft thrust or a submarine queue hidden behind the air assault. Its load includes a Mark 54 torpedo for subsurface contingency and air-to-surface weapons for emergent contacts. Another helo lifts to support visual identification and rescue readiness. The strike group assumes nothing. A drone raid in the Gulf can be cover for something worse. At 05:37 hours, the surviving threat package crosses 22 nautical miles. Now the intermissile layer activates. Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles begin leaving the escorts in rapid pairs. The launches are sharper now, more urgent, because the margin for error is gone. One drone disappears in a fireball. Another breaks apart but keeps moving as flaming wreckage for nearly 6 seconds before plunging into the sea. A third is hit so close to the water that the blast throws a vertical column of spray higher than the target itself. 15 more kills are recorded across 90 seconds. At 05:39 hours, Abraham Lincoln herself arms the last rings. NATO Sea Sparrow directors lock. Phalanx CIWS mounts begin autonomous tracking, white domes turning with insect precision. Sailors on exposed positions feel the vibration before they hear the commands. The ship is now inside the part of combat where no one needs a briefing. Everyone knows the next layer is the last clean layer. At 05:41 hours, 8 drones remain on attack heading. 8. After all of that, the number is small enough to sound manageable and large enough to kill hundreds if they arrive together. Range: 8 nautical miles. Time to impact under 3 minutes. 1 drone dives, another jinx. 3 hold steady at mast height profile. The air defense picture compresses into seconds. At 05:42 hours, the sky erupts. 3 final approach drones are engaged almost simultaneously by Sea Sparrow in close-in fire. 1 vanishes in a hard orange flash off the port bow. 1 is shattered so violently that fragments hammer the water in a line stretching half a mile. 1 gets through the missile basket and enters gun range. Phalanx opens. The 20mm stream is invisible at first, then visible only as impact, a tearing line across the drone's fuselage. Direct hit. Total disintegration. At 05:43 hours, the final 5 come in from split bearings. This is the saturation moment Iranian planners would have counted on. Different azimuths, different altitudes, compressed arrival windows. A drone on the starboard quarter is intercepted at 1.8 nautical miles. Another is killed even closer, showering metal across the surface screen. 2 more dive together. 1 is hit by spruance. The other survives long enough to cross into Abraham Lincoln's final defensive cone. Phalanx screams again. The drone vaporizes 900 yards from the ship. The last endbound is the most dangerous because it arrives alone. No clutter, no confusion. Just 1 low, stable track using the wake line as visual reference. Range 0.9 nautical miles, then 0.7, then 0.5. There is no room left for theory, only mechanism. The mount tracks, fires, walks the burst across the nose. The drone detonates off the carrier's port beam in a blinding white-orange pulse. The shock wave slams exposed metal. Deck crew hit the non-skid and stay there. Alarms spike. For 3 seconds, the entire scene becomes noise and fragments radar warnings. Shouted reports, shattered debris raining into the sea. The sky is full of tracer arcs, missile smoke, and burning aluminum. 12 impacts have occurred in under 2 minutes. 8 direct intercepts, 4 debris strikes on water. Simultaneous detonations. Splashes everywhere. Overpressure. Heat. The smell of hot metal and propellant. At 05:45 hours, it is over. Total raid tally, 60 UAVs launched. 60 UAVs neutralized. 22 destroyed by combat air patrol aircraft. 4 mission killed by electronic attack and fuel loss. 19 intercepted by standard missile engagements. 11 destroyed by ESSM shots. 4 eliminated by Phalanx CIWS inside the final mile. No drone reaches hull contact. No drone impacts the flight deck. No fires on board from hostile detonation. The strike group remains intact. The casualty report is grim only in how close it came. Two sailors aboard an escort suffer minor injuries from secondary fragment spray during a near-water intercept. One flight deck crewman aboard Lincoln is treated for concussion symptoms after the final blast wave. No fatalities. No major systems lost. No reactor compromise. No aircraft destroyed on deck. The missiles are counted. The empty launch cells are counted faster. At VO5 48 hours, MH-60R crews begin debris pattern assessment. The sea is scattered with composite fragments, broken engines, and floating wings. Rescue teams remain ready despite the fact that this is an unmanned attack. Damage control lockers sweep exposed topside positions. Fire parties inspect for hot fragments. Combat systems officers start reconstructing the ray path backward launch azimuths. Timing gaps, probable control nodes, possible decoy signatures. What just happened is not merely survived. It is being studied in real time. At 05,533 hours, the carrier resumes controlled flight deck operations. That decision matters. It is operational language more than symbolism. The ship did not retreat into paralysis. It restored function under threat conditions and preserved sortie generation. 26 minutes after initial detection, the defended force is still combat capable. At VI 557 hours, silence settles across the formation. Not peace, not safety, just the temporary absence of inbound tracks. 38 minutes after initial contact, the loudest sound in the battlespace is rotowash and the low churn of screws beneath black water. The tactical lessons were immediate. First, drone mass is dangerous, but mass without survivable coordination is vulnerable to a layered fleet defense that fuses airborne sensing, electronic attack, fighter interception, and shipboard missiles into one continuous kill chain. The Hawkeye saw first. The fighters disrupted early. The Growlers fractured cohesion. Aegis absorbed the middle range. Phalanx finished what survived. No single system won this engagement. Architecture won it. Second, magazine depth now defines naval endurance as much as armor once did. The raid forces commanders to spend expensive interceptors against cheap unmanned systems. Even in a successful defense, the arithmetic is uncomfortable. A destroyer that empties too many cells in one dawn engagement may survive tactically yet emerge strategically exposed. That reality would push every navy watching this fight toward cheaper point defense weapons, directed energy, and larger ready-use inventories for short-range intercepts. Strategic ramifications cascaded across the region within hours. Gulf partners would read the engagement one way, proof that the United States can still hold open vital sea lanes under concentrated drone assault. Tehran would read it another, evidence that swarm tactics can force response, expose spending asymmetry, and generate global headlines even when every air vehicle is destroyed. Commercial shipping insurers would read only the risk curve. If 60 drones can be launched at a carrier screen, merchant hulls remain radically more vulnerable. This engagement fundamentally reshaped one enduring argument about carrier warfare in the missile age. Critics often describe the carrier as a giant target. That phrase is emotionally powerful and tactically incomplete. A carrier is not a solitary hull waiting to be found. It is a moving, sensing, shooting system of systems protected by aircraft, destroyers, electronic warfare, and layered fire control. To reach the deck, an attacker must first survive the entire geometry around it. In this simulation, the swarm does not fail because it lacks courage or numbers. It fails because the battle space around Abraham Lincoln is deeper, faster, and more integrated than the raid planners calculated. There are doctrinal consequences beyond the Gulf. Navies in the Pacific, Mediterranean, and Red Sea would all study the same question. How many low-cost unmanned threats can a surface force kill before cost exchange, reload limits, and operator fatigue begin to favor the attacker? The answer here is reassuring, but it is not comfortable. The defense works. It also burns through resources at a punishing rate. That will drive future investments into lasers, microwave systems, autonomous escort drones, and more distributed sensor pickets. There is also a political consequence, even without a single U.S. ship lost. Demonstrated defense changes, escalation ladders. Once a state proves it can absorb a mass drone strike and remain on station, coercion loses some of its leverage. Deterrence becomes less theoretical. Maritime access becomes less negotiable. The strait does not stay open because hostile actors suddenly become cautious. It stays open because someone on the water can make closure attempts fail repeatedly in public. In 38 minutes, a 60-drone saturation attack goes from coordinated threats to burning debris field. Abraham Lincoln remains underway. Her escorts remain lethal. The air wing remains launch capable. The strait remains open, not through negotiation, but through demonstrated capability.